Man, I sure hope you didn't come here for a Brandon Ayuk update. I got next to nothing on that front, but I've got something that I think will come with a little bit more meaning in the moment. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also happen to offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. George Pickens is having a nice camp. George has done a lot of things really well at this camp. George has been dynamic. He's been diverse. He's even been disciplined. And the one thing that I would somehow still stress above all that is that George is determined to be the number one wide receiver on this team. And that's good because that's going to matter whether Ayuk is here or not, whether some other external wide receiver is here or not. Because as I see it, especially on an offense with so many different people in important spots, and I sometimes feel like I'm alone in this stance, but with really just a lot of unpredictability, both at quarterback and on the offensive line. But then on top of that, your other receiver positions, you need the guys who are supposed to be good, known to be good good. And George last season not only was good, but he got better along the way. He got better in that final month under different voices and running routes for a different quarterback. I had a good talk with Mason Rudolph about a month ago. He was already getting set down there in Nashville for his training camp. And we were talking about the way that month went for him, for the team. The name that he kept coming back to was George. And he did so by describing their relationship in both directions. One was that George had to trust him. George had to believe in him. George had to feel that, as any good wide receiver is going to feel about their quarterback, that you've got to know that I'm here. You've got to know that I'm going to catch the ball if you put it up. And we, of course, saw that play out into circus stuff like the unforgettable play in Seattle. You know which one I'm talking about. Both ends. But it was the other part that intrigued me a little bit more. Mason's a straight shooter. You guys should know that by now. And he said to me, I realized going out there 5 years into my NFL career that this might be it for me. This might be the only shot that I get, the only look that I get. Because once you fall into number 3 on somebody's depth chart, it's awfully hard to make it all the way back to 1. So he told me I looked at George as my meal ticket. I looked at George and thought to myself, why wouldn't I get this guy the football? He's going to make me look good. And guess what? George did. Remember, a couple of those big plays were just short routes, quick strike, boom, there he goes. And there's no shame in those for a quarterback. All of it counts toward the passing yards. And they did mutually make each other look good. And along the way, and he brought this up as well, George needed to expand his repertoire. It's one thing to say, all right, Matt Canada's gone. Here's Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan. And George, you just keep going deep. All right, don't worry about anything else. Just run straight lines. It's not what they did. It's not what any of them did. And Mason was involved in this part of it as well. He was in on those sessions where the playbook was being repurposed in a desperate attempt to try to win those final few games. And he was the one going to bat for George, saying, no, this play right here that you have assigned for someone else, just give it to George. He can do this. And what do you know? You started seeing George run these slants. He was coming back to the ball, sometimes on a sideline, sometimes over the middle. And you got to see that he was a more complete player. So now flash forward to this summer, another new coordinator, 2 new quarterbacks. And I can attest here, going back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show, that George has taken that final month from last season and further expanded on it. He looks now like an even more complete wide receiver. He looks like, I don't want to say the total package, because when I think of, the super big elite guys, I think not only of big plays, I also think of consistent possession. But that's in George's game. He looks like a guy you can trust on a third down. Routine third down. Get past the stick, turn around, catch, drop, period. And that has to happen. My friends, if I sound over the past couple of days like I'm a little extra urgent about this offense, you're going to have to trust me that it's got nothing to do with Ayuk. I'm not real big on that kind of stuff. When I see the guy standing there, whether it's at St. Vincent College, although today would be the last day of practice for that, or on the south side or wherever, until I see him, I'm not really all that invested in the subject matter, at least as it relates to how it could impact the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not here. But George has to be a 1 either way, and I mean a true 1 when I say that. You'll need him for depth. You'll need him for versatility. You'll need him for splash. You better believe you'll need him for that second half of the schedule gauntlet. You are not getting through that thing successfully with just one wide receiver you can count on. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Chad in Massachusetts, who says, "Hey DK, what have you seen from this version of the Steelers, whether it's players or coaches or both, that make you believe that they can start strong and take care of business against the quote-unquote easier teams and then continue that into the home stretch?" Chad, I haven't seen what I needed to see. Not yet. And here's where my answer gets really boring, but that's only because I can't help but oversimplify this. Until you see a relationship between the quarterback, and that applies whether it's ultimately Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, or intermittently between the two, depending on injuries. Until you see that, you can't know anything. And the way this camp has gone, I've seen a lot more of Fields than I have of Wilson. I've talked a lot about Fields. I haven't talked as much about Wilson and the kind of camp that he's had. And I'm probably not going to do that, at least not until he gets through this preseason game against the Bills, or depending on how the offense gets utilized tomorrow in that joint practice at Acrisure Stadium, how he handles that as well. And I don't mean to deflect or delay or sound wishy-washy as it relates to this. I just don't know how you can even begin to project something, even if it's just in your own head, if you don't know what the quarterback is going to look like within your system, within your personnel, within your culture. Does Russ still have the fight in him? I mean, I'll ask it right here, and I'll do so putting it up there only as a question. I don't know that. I can't know that. He's 36. He's accomplished a lot. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He's got a zillion Pro Bowls, a gazillion dollars. He's done a lot. He's made a lot. How much is left? How much is he? We can look at the kind of summer that he's had, and we talked about it on this program, where he's made his rounds through the community. He's gone above and beyond. And you're going to have to trust me that it's not for show, because I know for a fact from businesses here in downtown Pittsburgh that he's made the rounds here without seeking out or receiving any publicity for it at all. He's just been a good dude. And as I've said, That's a nice start. But, man, there's a difference between that and wanting the ball with 2 minutes left on the clock in Baltimore being down, 5 or 6 points. I don't know that. And I really feel like I just need to see something, anything from him in this preseason setting, and of course beyond, especially in Atlanta, to make me comfortable feeling anything meaningful about this offense. I appreciate the question, though. I'm sorry that I probably didn't give you the best answer. I'm just trying to be honest. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers, and we will do another one of these tomorrow.